iPadOS is the biggest and best update that the iPad will receive since its original introduction back in 2010, and I'm so excited for this because the iPad is a device that I use all the time, probably even more than my MacBook Pro. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my favorite additions that Apple has done to the iPad software through iPadOS. So let's get right into it. So the first thing that I love about the new iPad operating system is dark mode. Even though dark mode is simply an aesthetic upgrade, it's just one of those things that I can't live without, even though I've technically been living without it for as long as iOS has been around. But anyway, dark mode is something that I absolutely love. If an app or a website has an option to display their content in a dark mode, you bet I'm going to turn that on. Dark mode also makes it really easy to use your iPad when you're in a low light environment, and I find myself in those environments all the time because I'm a student, I do my work at night, and having dark mode just makes everything so much better. So my second favorite thing about iPadOS is the redesigned home screen. Now this isn't really a major redesign, it's more like Apple just mashing together a few features in iOS 12 and sprinkling a bit of Apple magic on top of it to make it look like it's new. But basically the new home screen in iPadOS gets rid of the widgets page that we saw in iOS 12 and attaches it to one part of the first page on your home screen. Adding widgets to the home screen just adds a lot of functionality because with a simple glance you can look at your calendar events or like basically anything you want and not have to swipe over and scroll down through an endless list of arbitrary widgets on a separate screen. So along with widgets, the new iPad home screen also has support for more apps. So now every iPad has the ability to show 6 icons by 6 icons, so basically 36 icons. Now this is probably a step forward when it comes to actually maximizing the space that you can get on some of the bigger iPads, but again, more icons, it's a plus either way. So my third favorite addition into iPadOS is the new Files app and everything that it brings along with it. With the new Files app, you can now have collaborative or shared files and documents, and you can also finally plug in external drives, which I don't know why that wasn't a thing before, especially for a machine that Apple is touting as a laptop replacement, but finally you can plug in any external drive you want, as long as the iPad can provide enough power for it. So along with those changes, the Files app also now implements a more hierarchical file viewing structure, kind of like how we view files in the Finder app on macOS. So this makes it so much easier to navigate through files, drag and drop different documents into different folders, and basically the entire Files app has been revamped to act more like a desktop system, which I think is great. So my fourth favorite addition into iPadOS are the new multitasking changes and features that Apple has implemented. iPadOS now provides the ability to use 2 windows of the same app in split view. Now this was a feature for Safari, but it was only limited to Safari in earlier versions of iOS. But now any app that supports this feature can take full advantage of it. Now this is a really big thing, especially for productivity, in case you want to have 2 windows of different content on the same app open at the same time. Up until this point, you weren't able to actually have more than one app circulating through in SlideOver. You were only limited to one app, and if you wanted to change what app was present in SlideOver, it was a bit of a hassle and it wasn't really a smooth experience. To fix this problem, Apple has added an app switcher to SlideOver, which means that you can have multiple apps circulating through on that little SlideOver window in the same way that you have an app switcher for normal apps. Apple has now also made it possible to reduce the size of the keyboard by making it into a floating window and have you able to manipulate it to wherever you want it to be on the screen. This feature is really useful, especially for iPads with larger screens, because now it enables you to have the keyboard wherever your hand is, and it makes one-handed use quite easy on bigger screened iPads. The new floating keyboard feature, along with the new swipe to type feature, makes it so much easier to use the iPad in many more scenarios, and also frees up a lot of screen space to make use of many apps when multitasking. My fifth favorite feature in iPadOS is lower latency when using the Apple Pencil. Personally, I use the iPad Pro in conjunction with the Apple Pencil almost half the time I even use the iPad, and having this feature makes it so much better when it comes to the overall writing experience. If you've been following my channel for a bit of time, you probably know how much I like using the iPad with the Apple Pencil, because I don't use pen and paper at all, and the iPad is basically my only tool for writing, and I also prefer writing a lot as well. If you want to watch my iPad Pro review, just click up here and you'll see my thoughts on using the iPad from a student's perspective. So the latency has been improved from 20 milliseconds to 9 milliseconds. Now, even though this may not seem like a huge change, this actually makes a lot of difference when writing, and it makes the experience of writing on an iPad with an Apple Pencil so much closer to using traditional pen and paper. So my sixth favorite feature that has been added into iPadOS is Sidecar. What this feature allows you to do is use an iPad running iPadOS as an external display to a Mac running the newest version of macOS, which was announced at WWDC, which is macOS Catalina. Now, I've already been doing this with an app called Duet Display, which allows me to use my iPad to mirror or to extend my Mac's display. But having this feature embedded into macOS and iPadOS makes the entire experience so much better. And the good thing is, for those who don't actually have an app like Duet Display, Sidecar is a free feature. So if you have an iPad lying around, and if you have a Mac that is able to run macOS Catalina, you've pretty much got a really good portable option for an external display. Now, that's not even the best feature to come out of Sidecar, because as we all know, macOS has zero support for touch input except from like a trackpad. But the iPad has a touch screen, so what happens there? Well, you can use the iPad's touchscreen as an input into macOS when you're extending or mirroring your display. Now, this is really good news, because what it allows you to do is not have your iPad screen just be an external monitor, but also have it be a second input device. Now, the features don't end there, because if you have an iPad that has Apple Pencil support, you can now use the Apple Pencil as an input device through your iPad into macOS. Now, this is a really monumental feature, especially if you're a person who's into graphic design, because what it allows you to do is it allows you to use your iPad as a drawing tablet for your Mac. Now, there are already some apps that have announced support for this feature, and there are obviously going to be many more apps to come. Sidecar is one of those features that I just love, because it allows me to make the most out of two devices that I already own, while also increasing my productivity when I'm on the go and need to get a lot of work done. So I'm going to be installing the iPadOS public beta on both my iPad Pro 12.9 inch and also my iPad 5th generation from 2017. Now, I've seen a lot of people on YouTube rave about the new features that iPadOS brings to iPad Pros and really high-end iPads, but what I haven't seen a lot of is people testing iPadOS on lower spec iPads, because this new update provides so many more features, so much more performance, and also just makes the experience of using any iPad so much better. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on these videos, because I'm going to be putting iPadOS through its paces from the 12.9 inch iPad Pro all the way down to the 2017 5th generation iPad. So that is all for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it informative, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe for more tech content. If you have any questions or anything to add about this new release of iPadOS, make sure to leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Again, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.